If you run a company, whether it be as a first-time entrepreneur or a seasoned CEO, you face challenges every day. And for many of you, you're doing it alone. For more than 40 years, Tony Robbins has helped business owners like yourself understand how successful your business could be, the level it's at today, and how to close that gap faster with fewer costly mistakes along the way. And now he would like to underwrite the cost of a free one-to-one business strategy session from one of his top business coaches, a $600 value. In that session, you'll learn how Tony's business systems can impact your company. See, what most people don't know is that when Tony acquires or starts a company, he brings in 6 systems that are proven to create monumental growth, up to 300% in the first year alone. To learn more about these systems, to get business owner resources, and to claim your free session, just go to tonyrobbins.com/CEO. tonyrobbins.com/CEO.
Hey everybody, it's Tony Robbins. Listen, welcome to the Masters of Business season of the Tony Robbins podcast, and I want to thank you all for joining me. Recently, I had the honor and the incredible opportunity to have my dear friend and my business partner, the legendary Bill Gross, speak at my Business Mastery program here in early August. Now, if you don't know Bill is the master of business, and when I say that, I'm not exaggerating. Bill has personally started from scratch, built and exited from 7 companies, each one from 0 to over $1 billion each. That's more than double what the greatest investor supposedly before that of all time was, which is Elon Musk. I mean, he's truly one of the greatest unicorn founders of all time. So Bill looks for those opportunities, those giant big problems where things are broken, and then he brainstorms technology solutions to fix them, and then he starts building a company out of it. And in these last 23 years, he's taken his little company called Idea Lab, a company that was one of the first incubators in the world, and he's been able to build so many companies and create so many jobs. Specifically, during these 2 decades, Idea Labs has started more than 150 companies, and it's created more than 10,000 jobs and more than 45 successful IPOs and acquisitions. Few tech entrepreneurs have found even one unicorn, as they call them. A company started from nothing and went to $1 billion. A tech company with a market valuation of over $1 billion, that's what we're talking about. We say unicorn, and Bill has started and exited 7 of them. 7 at $1 billion each. It still blows my mind. And what's really cool is Bill has just recently built another company called Energy Vault that I'm also a partner investor in. And it's a solution, as you'll discover in this podcast, for solving the big problem. One of the big problems is we now have renewable energy sources like solar and wind, and they're actually cheaper than petroleum now. So why aren't they distributed? Because you can't store them. So, you get all this electricity, solar electricity, for example, in the daytime, but the time you need it is at 7 p.m. at night, and you just don't have the ability to store it. And the ways of storing it that many people are doing are so expensive or toxic with batteries. And when you discover what his strategy is that Energy Vault has done, it'll blow you away. Well, it's not only going to blow you away, it's blowing away the marketplace. This fast company, he won the 2019 World Changing Ideas Award on energy, but just a couple weeks ago, we raised 110 million Series B funding from SoftBank's Vision Fund so that we can continue to eliminate our dependency on fossil fuels. They see it as the future. So get this, Bill's created a new company every single day, at least 5 days a week over the last 20 years. Now that's what you call being a master of business, to say the least. And not all of them are going to be great successes, but the idea for them, and he pushes through those to find what are the very best they can take to the highest level of impact in the world. And so part of this podcast, I wanted you to hear Bill sharing kind of his top lessons of all time as a serial entrepreneur. And then in part 2, I want to make sure a couple things that we didn't cover that we did in a brief interview with him as well. So he's going to have ideas about how to raise capital, how to pitch investors, his visions for the future, and how it affects your business and your career. So I know you're going to enjoy this podcast. This is a chance to meet a brilliant man, my dear friend, my partner, Bill Gross.
You've talked about all the things that I've done that were successful. You didn't talk about my 60 failures. I definitely learned a lot from those failures. I'm going to try and share some best learned lessons from my entire career about those, especially with you. First, I want to tell you about my journey. Then I want to tell you the top 10 things that I wish someone had told me 40 years ago when I was first getting into business, and then talk to you about what I'm most passionate about right now. Well, my journey started by selling candy at the bus stop in junior high school. I had little candy bars in my old Pan Am bag that I took from my mother. I went to Save-On drugstore and bought Skittles and Bazooka and Snickers for 8 1/3 cents. They were selling them 3 for a quarter. They were a dime. They were selling them 3 for a quarter, and I marked them up to a whopping 9 cents at the bus stop. So I made a whopping 2/3 of a cent per bar, but I sold candy bars and I loved it. And it wasn't really buy low and sell high. It was buy not so low and sell barely a little bit higher. But I made $400 selling candy bars in junior high school, and that was really, really thrilling to me. And it was my first taste of entrepreneurship. It was quite exciting. What I did with that $400 was go out and buy an old, rusted Shopsmith. Shopsmith was a 5-in-1 tool for woodworking and metalworking that I was really excited about because I had just taken wood shop in junior high school, and I was really excited to make things with my hands, make things out of wood, and I bought this old Shopsmith for $400, de-rusted it, rewound the motor, put it back together, and I started making things like checkerboards and lamps and carved bowls, and I even went and bought, I don't know if you remember this, back in the days of dial telephones, you couldn't even own your own phone back then. AT&T had a monopoly on the phones. You had to rent your phone, so you couldn't buy one. But on the used marketplace for broken phones, I could go buy old phones, rip them apart, take the innards out, polish up the bells, and put them inside these little plexiglass boxes and sell them for $49. And I used to go to the swap meet, at the Rose Bowl swap meet near where I lived in Southern California to sell these. And I love doing this. I love the idea of taking parts and remanipulating them and making them more valuable. One of the basic tenets of entrepreneurship is trying to add value, and I was doing that in my own little way as a young teenager in Southern California. Then I grew up to be 15 years old in 1973 during the huge energy crisis. I don't know how many of you remember this, but there were long lines of cars just to buy rationed gasoline. You could only buy $5 of gasoline per day based on the last digit of your license plate on odd or even number days based on the calendar. And I lived in Studio City, and here on Ventura Boulevard, there were long lines, a mile long, just to get your $5 ration of gasoline. And I saw this, and I thought, this is ridiculous. The idea that somewhere in the world, we're digging oil out of the ground and rationing it to make our lives just a little bit more comfortable, and yet we have a lock on this. There's got to be another way to power our planet. So that got me early interested in renewable energy. I started reading everything I could about that. I went to the library and read about solar energy. I read about wind power. I read about Stirling engines, these magical devices that could convert heat to electricity. And I started making kits and plans for them. It was really my first real company, Solar Devices. I started this little mail order business when I was 15, and I made these kits and plans that I sold in the back of Popular Science magazine. Little kits to make solar parabolic concentrators and little Stirling engines. But the thing I really learned from this was about mail order. Mail order was the